we are just bombarded with toxic air and chemicals just floating around radically. I mean, I can literally look out of the window over here and see them burning, petrochemicals into the atmosphere, and just people are like, oh, everything's fine. It's burning off. It's gone. I don't really believe that. Fundamental biohackers walk around with tools like this that just simply measure air quality. Air quality, I think, is probably the top thing to really understand, especially if you live in a city.
Here is your daily dose of the Ultimate Sales Machine, coming to you from the new edition. Visit ultimatesalesmachine.com to get your copy or multiple copies. I am your host, Amanda Holmes, CEO of Chet Holmes International. What you're about to learn has assisted 250,000 businesses to generate billions of dollars, working faster, better, smarter.
Welcome everyone to the CEO Mastery Show. This week's episode, we're covering the 3 ways to increase your lifespan with Brett Harmeling. I first met Brett at DLP Capital events. For those of you that don't know DLP Capital, they're absolutely amazing. 10 years on the Inc. 5000 list. So I met him in a real estate environment, much more corporate. They have over $3 billion in assets, and Brett was knocking it out of the park there. And then I met him again at the Biohacking conference this last year around, and he says, oh yes, I have a private jet company. I also help very successful people optimize their health, and I have a company that helps bring resources together for those that are looking to increase their lifespan, to have a healthier life as they have a longer life. And I just thought, this is fascinating. I got to bring you on my podcast because people have to hear this experience. And because of your introduction, I've had a radical change in my own life. So thank you, Brett. I was having chronic headaches and I didn't know why. And you had made a suggestion of the Advanced Rejuvenation Center, which is just down the road from me, a functional medicine group. And I found out there was mold in my home, and I have 5 times the amount of mold in my system than I should. So now I moved my home since I've talked to you last. I did all of these tests. I'm now on a new regimen, and I just think it's so valuable that people should know these things that are really hindering our health and how to optimize it, because there's so many advancements in technology and biohacking today. So thank you for being a catalyst for this, for me, and then for everyone else, because I think it's just so fascinating what we're capable of today. So thank you.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And thank you so much for having me on. Hopefully we can create some value and some takeaways so people can tap into the best state of energy that they can possibly attain.
Yes, and I'll say this at the end, but if you want to find Brett as you hear how brilliant he is, both on Instagram and LinkedIn, Brett Harmeling, Harmeling, go say hello to him because he's coming out with a book with Forbes, which is awesome. And Happy Life is about to launch. Happy Life?
Happy Life Labs. Yep.
Happy Life Labs. Yes. Okay. So I know for a fact that since 1970, males' lifespan has increased by 9.2 years. But because of that increase in lifespan, we're actually disabled and sicker longer than we've ever been before. I know for disability, that causes a disability for, on average, 4.7 years longer than what we've had before. And we spend the latter half of our life, if we've made a good amount of money, we spend it trying to gain back the health that we lost, grinding as entrepreneurs and in the workplace. So relevant for you being here to just talk about how do we optimize and harmonize our lives to create, as you say, right, superhumans.
That's right. That's what I'm in the business of doing, is creating superhumans, which everyone has access to. And as you alluded to earlier, a simple shift in your life, like understanding how your body responds to mold, can change your entire life. Or understanding that you may be missing a fundamental mineral in your body, and you add that back into your regimen, within days you can feel like a whole new human. So it's important, knowledge is power, and so is proximity. And so it's important to get yourself educated around the people that are telling the truth and not trying to sell products all the time, but really are doing their due diligence and research on these companies. And that's literally the foundation of Happy Life Labs. I saw oversaturated marketplace. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry, people taking care of themselves and whatnot. And so I said, we're going to bring the world's best products, people, and place into one place. And so that people can kind of sift through all the noise out there and know that if they go to Happy Life Labs, they'll be finding the best people in the world, such as Advanced Rejuvenation Center that my friend Dr. John Laurence runs.
I love that. Well, let's dive in. So the 3 ways to increase your lifespan. Number 1 is the first chapter of your book that's going to come out, The Hidden Forces Hijacking Your Health. I think actually I experienced that with mold. I had no idea that that could be affecting me so severely. But what are some other things that maybe we're not thinking about that is hijacking our health?
Well, we surround ourselves in these environments all the time, especially if you live in a city like I do, Houston. We are just bombarded with toxic air and chemicals just floating around radically. I mean, I can literally look out of the window over here and see them burning, petrochemicals into the atmosphere, and just people are like, everything's fine, it's burning off, it's gone. I don't really believe that, Fundamental biohackers walk around with tools like this that just simply measure air quality. Air quality, I think, is probably the top thing to really understand, especially if you live in a city. And so I have, purifiers and things that clean the air, because oxygen equals energy. And so if you're not breathing in clean, good, rich energy and filling your body up, you are that's a fundamental thing that you're not giving yourself a fair chance at. And then the next one right after that is just water. Like, we unconsciously, they say drink 8 glasses of water a day. And that was, heavy duty marketing campaign by the bottled water companies. And maybe you should drink 8 things of water, but when you drink plastic water, you'll notice your body can't really absorb it, for instance. Whereas you drink water that's from nature, that's charged and structured and clean, and, all the free radicals and microtoxins are out of it, then you give your body a solid foundation to thrive from. And so those are 2 really easy examples. And then one that's imminent that most people don't even think about. I'll give you 2 more just for the sake of this.
Well, before you dive into those, I just want to wrap around to what you were saying. So on the first one with air, you said you have an air doctor in every room?
No, in every space that I'm in Houston, absolutely. So I have several offices kind of all over the city. Not all. I have 2 offices in the city, and then in our home, we have an open floor layout. So we have one downstairs that cleans the down, and then one upstairs. So maybe a little overkill, but I just don't want already being inside is about 70% more toxic than being outside. If you just look around the space that you're listening to this in, you can just notice that nothing is pretty much from nature. I mean, it is in some capacity, but it's all made with heavy chemicals that off gas and that, so if you're not cleaning your air and you're breathing it in consistently, well, first of all, you'll notice you get tired because you're not breathing quality air. And so that's a fundamental, your body's innately intelligent. And so you should listen to it. If you feel tired, your body's going to say, hey, I'm tired. I need better. Likely you just need more oxygen.
I love that. And then, so I've been doing my regimen from Advanced Rejuvenations, and she had said that I needed to drink. I have these homeopathic regimens that she's given me to help detox my body first. The first step is detoxing for me. And I've been drinking a glass bottle every day, and I am not normally one to drink so much water. And I felt so different being able to just drink 1 glass of water, or not glass, but an ounce. I was drinking 1 liter. And then she said that you take your body weight, you cut it in half, and that's how many ounces you should have a day.
Yeah. Everyone has their own protocols. And so I'm not I believe in a concept, and we'll probably touch on this deeper, but I'll just say right now is bio-individuality. So what works for you, Amanda, may be very, very different than someone that looks exactly like you that just has a little bit different makeup. If you live in a city that's like Houston, where it's 100 degrees, maybe you need more water, right? And the part that we have to wake up to is even bottles like this, and it's good water, but there's a liner in this and it has plastic, right? And so we're still being exposed to all these microplastics, and even the glass bottle water, how do you know when that water was harvested, from where, and then how long it's just been sitting there, right? And so it's kind of one of those things you just start to think about the source of your water, and you it's one of those things you can take control of, right? And so we have a whole house water system to get all the chemicals out. And then we at the faucet, we have a Kangen water system, which actually puts the water through electrolysis, which means structures the water, and then during that process, it creates molecular hydrogen, and then from there you drink it, and you get more hydrogen in your system, and hydrogen allows your body to absorb oxygen, which is good.
I love that. Okay, are there any other that you wanted to discuss on the hijacking of your health? Those silent killers.
Yeah, the other one is really like something that I see a lot of people missing the mark on. It's EMFs, so electromagnetic frequencies. There's good ones like the Earth. The Earth holds a frequency called the Schumann resonance, 7.83 megahertz. So it has a heartbeat. I call it the Earth's heartbeat. And the more connected we get to that, the more we will heal. And so we are around all these LED lights and Wi-Fi signals and 5G signals and everything, even the wearable technologies on your body. Like I wear a Whoop, but I have it in airplane mode, and then I just download the data like two times a day usually, like before I go to sleep and then when I wake up. And so it's off, but it's still measuring, right? It's still measuring, but it's not sending signals from my hand to my phone all the time. See, and then another thing is the AirPods. They are causing major issues, especially when you link them from you're putting. Just think about this, you're putting unnatural, high-powered energy sources millimeters away from your brain. Just think about when you think about it, just doesn't make sense. So
when I was a kid, my father was so obsessed. He would come in and he'd see me on the phone. I was a teenager, of course. I would be talking on the phone with whoever. He would yell at me ferociously. He doesn't yell very often, but he would be like, "You've got to get that phone away from your head." And I think about that like over and over and over again. Get that phone away from your head. Get that phone away from your head. The studies show it causes cancer. Stop that. And yet now I see everybody putting the earpods in. For me, I use corded Bose headphones. So they're still noise canceling, but at least it has a cord so it's not sending the frequency.
Right. Your brain. The energy source is your phone. Exactly. Then you take it to the next level. They do make ones with like air tubes, so that there's literally, so like the speakers are down here, like way down here. And then the sound travels through an air tube into your ear. I'm not a huge fan. Like some things, you just got to say it's going to be okay. Right. And so, and like for AirPods, like I will do the run with my AirPods. I'll make sure that it's not set on where they connect in the middle setting. And then I'll take them out immediately. And that's it. And I do that, 3 days a week. So it's not about always being like so hard, because honestly, stress and overthinking things is like one of the biggest underlying causes of early cause morbidity. To be truthful, stress makes disease and things manifest more like faster than most food.
I also want to add to what you said earlier, because I think it's very widely overlooked, is fluorescent lights. Just test sitting in a room with fluorescent lights and then change out your bulbs to actually be natural bulbs, right? Instead of the fluorescent tubes. You'll feel naturally more energy. The fluorescent lights just suck the life force out of you. And I think of every corporation and how they have this in their offices, and I'm thinking, doesn't anybody feel how awful it feels to sit under one of those all day, every day?
It's like a radiation center, right? And so just being present and cognizant to like understand the concept that we're light beings and we absorb energy and light no matter what, whether it's good or bad. And so we can be responsible for where we spend our time and what lights we put ourselves in front of. And like, for instance, for this podcast, like, yes, I'm going to have good lighting. Guess what happens when I'm off the podcast? The lights go off. I had to turn on my red light and my salt lamp and, ambient lighting, more natural colors. But, that's the fundamental principle. Like when the sun goes down, so should your lights.
I love that. So 3 ways to increase your lifespan. Number 1, the hidden forces hijacking your health. It was so good. Number 2, test, don't guess. Tell me about that, because I think this is fascinating.
Yeah, this is where people start to geek out a little bit, because not long ago, these tests that people are running now on were unbelievably expensive to run a test. And insurance doesn't really cover most of this stuff. And so there's a myriad of tests that you can obviously do. You can test the length of your telomeres now. So that would give you an accurate depiction of your chronological age versus your biological age. So your chronological age is like simply, I'm 36. My biological age currently is telling me that I'm 28 years old, which means the health of my cells is looking good, right? And there's a reason for that. I just did stem cells about 4 months ago. I take care of my body. I'm not the person that's going to look like the most fit guy in the weight room and have a six pack and be chiseled. I'm the guy that has vital health and life force. Like, you know, and so it's like I live and walk through life every single day, just knowing that like from a cellular level, my body is completely optimized. And so I like to study cellular intelligence, which is how cells respond to environments you put them in. And a lot of the tests, the one that my wife, who's a dietitian and has her own company, Saverly. So that's a good subtopic. Like Saverly is the company that overlooks any type of nutrition or supplement that comes into Happy Life Labs. So if someone's like, hey, we want to be a partner in your portfolio, my wife will do kind of due diligence and make sure like, is it third-party test, all the things. And so she does what's called an HTMA, which stands for hair tissue mineral analysis. This is the most clear depiction of your overall health. And it really helps people a lot because minerals, right? Like that's the foundation of health. If your body can't hold a charge and you don't have the right minerals, like all those amazing vitamins and things that you're adding in likely aren't electromagnetically sticking to your body. And so it's a really powerful test. It's really not even that expensive to do, but that'd be a perfect example. That's how you can take control of your health, because if you feel even the slightest bit off, for instance, you did the mold test, you can do a mold spore test. You know, a lot of times people are all allergy conscious and things like this. It's likely more a cause of toxins and heavy metals in your body or mold that are underlying. Like people, like we weren't born to be allergic to anything really. Yeah. And I'll challenge people on that a little bit. You know, also like a lactose intolerant person will come to my house and I'll have them drink a glass of raw milk and they'll have no issues. Tell me, you know, like it's a perfect example. I think, you know, raw milk, honey, these things are like the world's superfoods, right? And if you put superfoods in your body, you become superhuman.
I love that. I think that this is critical. I mean, obviously I run a data research firm, so I love data, but I love this concept that we know how much money we make a month. We know what our expenses are, and yet we don't know the basics of like, what is my hemoglobin or what is my white blood cells or red blood cells? And ever since I worked with Regenerative Medicine Institute, they were a client last year, RMI, you know, one of the leading world's best in stem cells. I found out about this chronological age versus biological age, and I'd been wanting to do it. And I got my test results back just a few weeks ago, and it showed me that I am chronologically 6 years older than my biological age. So for the first time in history, we can prove scientifically that stress is making you die faster. My report showed me that I am 62% more likely to die prematurely in comparison to people my age, and I am aging at a rate 75% faster than people my age. It was a huge shock for me because I live a fairly healthy life. I'm a vegetarian. I don't drink. I don't smoke. And I've made these decisions because of watching my father die at 55. So then to see that yet all of these decisions I'm making, are they the right decisions? We don't know. We just listen to what people tell us on the internet or what we hear say, but now you have the ability to have the data to back it up. So I was getting these headaches, and then I was also just feeling so lethargic and tired, and I was trying to figure out why. Well, it turns out in my labs, which, right, Advanced Rejuvenations did, they didn't just do 2 labs, which if I had gone to a regular MD, they would have looked and there would have been nothing wrong. Everything was mostly in the general intervals of what should be okay, because a general doctor is just looking for disease. They're not looking to prevent the diseases, right? So, which I love about functional medicine. But my report came back and said that I was malnourished in vitamin D. So typically you get, if they do an injection of vitamin D, it's like anywhere between 10,000 to like 30,000. I don't know what the units are. They gave me an injection of 600,000, whatever the unit is, of vitamin D and B12. They're like, how do you even like walk around every day? So it makes me wonder, for all of you that are listening that are leaders in your industries that are just slugging and you're grinding and you're like, if I just force this, if I just get through this, I'll make it through. Well, my data is showing me I need to stop. And I really appreciate the referral that you made for me, because I am young enough to the point where I can make better choices, and it's all based around data. It's not just hearsay. It's not who has the best marketing. It's not who has the best SEO when you type it into Google. It's just straight data. So you try and then you test again to find out if it worked.
100%. And something for people like that are wanting to embark on this journey, Amanda, you should know is that there is a bit of, it's the opposite. So traditional health in America is like, nothing's wrong, you're okay, things are fine. So the cost is pretty cheap, right? And insurance pays for it. And then something happens, and then there's a hockey stick event in your life, and you're like, oh my gosh. And so like, if you look at why people go bankrupt, like number one, right, is real estate, like, because you go under, and number two is a health related issue, right? And then the other way is functional, where you get really clear on what's on, you do all these tests, so the cost starts here. And then over time, your chance of having a life-altering health issue goes down and down and down. And so it's like, oh, it's a little like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna do all this stuff up front. But then over time, you kind of like level out. And so there's just no comparison, because you know what? I tell all of my clients is like, nothing will work until you take 100% responsibility for your health. So many people rely on systems and doctors, and not that systems or doctors are bad, but you have to trust what you feel, not what you hear. And so if like walking around with a big gut, or like you can't lose weight, or you can't gain weight, or like whatever the thing is, like you can even tell in people's skin and eyes, like very specifically, like the health of a person, right? And especially how much time they're spending outside. So, because the eyes will tell you what's going on with the organs, and the skin will tell you kind of like what's going on overall fundamentally. So these are good indicators that don't require any testing, where you can just look at yourself and you can see, and you just Google ideology, right? Or if something happens on your skin, or you're getting pimples, like look into that. Your skin is there. It's your largest organ, and it tells you if you have a rash or you have something going on. It's like, hey, that means something. Don't just put a cream on it and ignore it.
Right.
So there's a lot of ways to test other than going and getting tests, is what I was getting at.
But I also love the tests.
and yeah, the tests are fun too.
You'll have to ask Brett Harmeling on LinkedIn or Instagram for some best places to get those tests, and who to look for functional medicine doctors and all of that. He is a great resource. So the third step, the third way to increase your lifespan, is the pillars of vitality. Can you share what some of those pillars are?
Yeah, so it's fun. The fundamentals of vitality are really anchored in, I believe, in nature, right? And so the future of medicine and longevity is actually going back to our ancestral roots and understanding what keeps things alive. There's a very powerful argument that aging is a disease. And so just like any other disease, if we can solve for the disease, then we don't have to age. And so that freaks a lot of people out. Like even in our lifetime, Amanda, we may have to choose when we want to die. And because they're already like, 3D printing lungs, and, they already have artificial hearts. And so like, if these systems in your body fail and you just need a new one and they can swap it out, this is happening already. And we're just getting started. And I say that's a little crazy because with the advancement of AI, Peter Diamandis is someone that I hold really close to me in terms of like what he's saying, who he's interacting with, sciences, technologies, things like that. And he's also on a board that I'm a part of. And so it's like really cool to be connected to people like him, because they think like this, where it's like, hey, what if we solve that problem, and then like fill in the gaps, right? Like what prevents it and how do we do it together? And so it's going backwards. And so even going right back to the beginning of our conversation, it's like air, like think about the air that you're breathing. That's a free, almost a free hack, right? So I say it almost because you may have to buy an air filter that are like Air Doctor, for instance, is ones we use. They're not really that expensive for what it does, right? You're literally, it's like an insurance policy in your house. Then water, right? Take control of your water. And then identify how much time you're spending outside, right? Like truly, like how much time are you touching earth? People laugh like if I'll do, like hug a tree or, like be walking like it's weird because I'm the only person walking barefoot on the side of the trail, and people think it's crazy, and I'm like, I think they're crazy. And so it's just like, you stand out a little bit, but once you understand like what happens, and there's actual science behind this, by the way, it's called ionization. And so we're an electromagnetic field, and so is the earth, and when you touch it, you create an energy transfer immediately. And so the best place to do that, by the way, is the ecotone of where the sea meets the sand. So there's the highest turnover rate, of sand and seawater right there. And so if you're right there at a beach, getting that's like the highest ionic charge that you can get from grounding. So travel hack, if you're going to go somewhere, like get yourself touching the earth wherever it is you're going.
Mm-hmm. I'm a big tree hugger. Don't tell me, honey.
Yeah, and the psychological concept of that is like if you're hugging a tree, you're hugging something that's rooted deeper, and therefore, so like I say, your light or your branches can only grow up towards the light as far as your roots go deep. And so when you're doing like inner work and shadow work and healing, and it only takes one person to stop generational trauma and create a different story. And so I invite every one of you listening to this for you to be that person, right? To just say, it's not going to be like this moving forward. The ball stops here, and do your work, and then just go share your gifts and resources, because you're going to be a beacon of light and hope and possibility for other people. And so it's like step into that power, because we all have it in us. A lot of us just don't know it. Right.
I love that.
Yeah, it's why Tony Robbins' work, unleash the power within. The first thing he says at this conference, and I've been to it like 10 times, is like, I am not here to fix you. You're not broken. And it's refreshing to hear that, because we make up a lot of stories about ourselves that aren't true, and that eventually causes stress and makes us do bad habits. And you got to be really conscious of your habits, because your habits create your reality and then becoming who you are.
Brett Harmeling. Everybody go and follow him on either Instagram or LinkedIn. Harmeling. Harmeling. We covered the 3 ways to increase your lifespan, which number 1 was the hidden forces hijacking your health. Number 2 was test, don't guess. And number 3 were pillars of vitality. And I'm sure he could talk for another several hours, and I would be thoroughly intrigued and asking you lots of questions, because I know you've tried so many of the different products in the space and services and technologies. And so I really appreciate your wealth of knowledge and all that you do for so many that, entrepreneurs, it gets lonely at the top and we grind a lot. And so the fact that you help them optimize their health is just absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Amanda. It's just been a pleasure to be here and just spread the word. It's just like, I believe that every one of us can change our lives, and you just have to like truly love yourself enough to know that you deserve it. Right. And you have to be brave enough to like demand more out of life, and then be disciplined to actually work the plan. It's a process. And if you take these approaches and just listen to people that are telling the best that they know about what they know about, then you can't go wrong. And always trust what you feel, not what you hear.
I think that's very difficult for a lot of people. I would say that the grand majority of people hear what a doctor tells them and just immediately, death sentence in itself. I read a study once that said that, and there's definitely a place for MDs, so I'm appreciative of what you do. I have seen data also that shows, it's a hard job. So before noon, the amount of surgeries that are recommended by an MD reduce significantly. And then as the day goes on, the percentage of surgeries recommended increases significantly as they get more tired and have to make more decisions. Yeah. So takeaway for that is, 1, get a morning doctor's appointment. And number 2, just because you get a diagnosis or a doctor says something doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be your truth and the end all be all. So be curious and ruthlessly committed to taking care of yourself, because it's not just you, it's the people around you and that rely on you too.
Yes, your energy is your currency, so throw it out.
Thank you so much, Brett. It's been such a pleasure. Brett Harmeling. Go find him online and say hello.
Thank you.
Make sure to get your copy or copies at theultimatesalesmachine.com. There's a lot of special bonuses that you can't get going to Amazon, so make sure you check it out at ultimatesalesmachine.com.